Welcome to the MADLOVE Your Life Show. I'm Mary D., the Joy Catalyst, here to be your host and transformation guide. Mad Love is about the mad, making a difference, and love is what we serve up to live a delicious life. My intention is to help you spark new ideas, break limiting beliefs, and align with your deepest dreams and desires. Get ready for laughter, inspiration, and finding your inner roar in every show. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Mad Love Your Life Show. I'm excited to be here for episode 2, season 2. And I have a very, very special guest today. His name is Amin. Amin made the Forbes 30 under 30 at age 23 for building Kadama, a $50 million tutoring app that connects 2 million Gen Z students and tutors. Kadama has 2.5 million followers on TikTok and Instagram. It's generating 10 million plus in revenue. It's a profitable company and has raised its own funding. Amin is also an ex-software engineer from Apple and graduated from the University of Washington at age 20. He was quickly promoted to leadership at Apple, working with VPs. And in this last 6 months, he's grown his personal Instagram, TikTok, Facebook to 1.6 million plus followers and generated 6 figures in brand deal revenue. And so if any of you want to know how to do that, we've got an expert on the show today. Amin's videos have been featured on news outlets such as Fox Business and Washington Post. And today I want to welcome my special guest, Amin Shaykho. Hi, Amin.
Hey, thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. It's going to be a fun show. We're going to talk about business, but we're also going to talk about life. We're going to talk about traditions. We're going to talk about all kinds of good stuff today. And I really want to dive in. This really gets people an opportunity to know who you are above what we can go read online and above what we can actually go search Dr. Google for and dig up all of the old press. So I'm looking for some fresh, fun stuff today, and just an opportunity to connect you with more people who are aspiring to be entrepreneurs, and also people who come from diverse backgrounds. We all share so many of the same challenges, but also we have our unique challenges. And I think talking about those and the things that are real life and that really matter are what's most important. So thanks for being here and being open today to have the conversation.
Of course. Thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. So I really want to talk a little bit first about Kadama, because it sounds like it is the Uber of tutoring. Do I have that right?
Yeah, it's a very close representation.
Okay, very cool. And I know that you were in an accelerator to get that off the ground. Tell me, I think there are a lot of people out there that, number one, don't know what an accelerator is. So maybe if you want to talk about that first, like what is an accelerator and how did you find it? Because I think lots of people have lots of great business ideas and they might be in startup mode, but they're like, who's going to help me? Who can come to the table? So let's start with that. And then we'll go into like what Kadama actually is.
Yeah, no, of course. I like to think of an accelerator as essentially a startup school. They give you all the prep you need so you're ready in the real world when you go and take that company out of the accelerator. Our specific accelerator, it was through the University of Washington, and a lot of them are actually tied through schools, institutions, maybe venture capital funds. But the point is, us being alumni of the school, we had an easy kind of connection there. Obviously, we still had to apply. It was a rigorous process, but once we were in, they teamed us up with 6 mentors. All these mentors have built their own successful companies, and they put them in a room with us for the course of, I think, a few months. And they try to iron out our initial idea of the company. They essentially told us what we were doing wrong, what we should be doing. And then together, they took us on a journey where we actually took our company from essentially a bunch of students trying to figure something out to something that actually made sense. And within a few months after finishing the accelerator, not only did we get $25,000 grant to help our operations, but I think we had the stepping stones across business and product to make something where that was actually eventually able to launch successfully.
Amazing. Amazing. What is something that you know now that you wish you had known before you joined that accelerator?
I think, well, first of all, I even though we've made a lot of mistakes, I don't regret any of them because they taught me a lot of things. But don't get too married to an idea. And
Mm,
specifically for us, because we made an app, too married to a specific feature of your app,
mm.
because the customers are the one that should define that, not you.
I love that. I love that. That's super great. Where would you say you spent the most time in the accelerator? I've been fortunate to mentor inside of an accelerator before for operations and leadership. So, what part for you was like that level? What leveled you up the fastest?
What level did you say we leveled up the fastest within
What
the
leveled you
accelerator?
up the fastest? Yeah, like from being in the accelerator, like what was like other than getting the advice on like the things to do and not to do or ways to, perfect your brand and how to listen to your customer. Like
Mhm.
what do you think personally, like what was a personal growth for you just from being there and being exposed to the information that you're exposed to?
Definitely the various ideas and also people coming in and saying, oh, what you're doing actually isn't correct. So a lot of people coming to you and just being real and saying, oh, I don't think you're thinking about this the right way. Because before the accelerator, it was just me and my founders, and not a lot
Mm,
of people told us the truth. A lot of people, when they see you, they're just like, oh yeah, it's a great idea. They no People don't like to give constructive feedback usually because they don't want to come off as mean. But I personally value people who give me the harsh reality and the truth. And when we faced that, it did suck in the moment because a lot of our ideas went kaboom like that. But in reality, they were just telling us about the reality. And through that,
mm,
I think we became way more realistic as founders. And those are important characteristics to have because when you go to the market, you need to be real with yourself. If something's not working or it is working, right? You can't just be
right.
blinded by your own biases,
That's
Sorry.
right. That's right. Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. I have seen so many businesses that are really attached to their thing. So, you might have Jane's Pie Company and she's really attached to rhubarb raspberry pie. And it's because
Mhm.
it's her signature thing that she has long dreamed about because it's what her grandma made for her. But if it's not selling at all, it's actually a line item that's costing her money, then that's where I think advisors are great at coming in and going, look, we love your story about your grandma and your rhubarb raspberry pie, but it makes zero money. It actually
Yeah.
costs you money, but people love your apple pie. And I think that that's the part where people get really attached. Many, many moons ago, I worked in Hollywood, and we would see people bring us scripts, and they would look at those scripts, and you'd say to them, "Hey, we're willing to buy this from you.
Mhm,
However,
mhm,
we need the
mhm.
rights to alter it." And people would be so attached to that story and that
Yeah.
script, and they'd be like, "No, it must be exactly like I have it." And I have a lot of respect for creativity and artists, but also for the ones that are ready to like make this their income and be able to go and say, "Hey, like I don't have the room in my wallet to compromise on this. It's a great story. Let's get started so that I
Mhm.
can become famous enough, big enough, and now I can write any story I want to." I think people get lost on some of those insights. So I love you sharing that because I think that's so important, because people do get really attached. They get attached to a concept, but you can go in and look at their books sometimes, and you'll be like, no, that doesn't make any sense to sell that or to do that. What would you say was one of your worst ideas? Let's start with that. I want to hear what some of these, like what you thought were the best ideas, but they actually end up being the worst ideas.
Well, actually, this is a pretty easy thing to tell you right now. Our worst idea was essentially offering a free version of our app to customers. And we thought that, oh, if it's free, there's going to be no barrier to entry. Everyone is going to use the app. They're going to love it. And then they're going to stick on forever. But to make something free, especially for us as a tutoring app, it's pretty costly to pay tutors. So by making it
Mm,
free, we take the hit. And it turned out there's a certain demographic, whether or not you make it free for them as a trial to try and get them to experience a product, they simply don't have the money to pay for the service, essentially because they're younger kids.
mm,
And there's no way to convert them to a paying customer. And those were just a big negative loss for us. And I think we burned anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000 doing
wow.
that. So that's a pretty bad idea.
Wow.
But what it taught us at the end of the day was who our real true customers are. And because of that, we were able to optimize our experience to focus on them, which ended up being very positive for revenue growth and, of course, product growth.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent. So I also am looking through your profile and noticed that you graduated at 20 years old. How do you
Hmm.
graduate at 20 years old? Like, what kind of kid are you in school? Are you just overachieving? Is it just so easy for you, or were you just super focused? Were your parents like, go, go, go? Education's the way. Like, talk me through that, because 20's a pretty young graduate.
Yeah, well, definitely, like, my family did, it was my parents were trying to instill that in us, from a young age. They wired me to think you're either a doctor, a lawyer, or somebody in business or an engineer. But for me, I kind of like took the route that they never once advocated for, just because they're immigrants, they didn't know much about entrepreneurship. And
Yeah.
for me, as an entrepreneur, I've kind of like tied the dots across those things. But when I was in school, I never really knew what I was destined to do. I never really had a true passion or had a career goal.
Mm.
But I remember when I was young, for me, like, if I can maintain a 4.0 all throughout school, even though I have no idea what that's going to do for me, it's going to open up doors one day, even though I don't know what it will do. And so from a young age, I just dedicated so much time to studying and doing homework. But I don't think I was the smartest person ever, like, in the room.
Mm.
I don't have the highest IQ. I just worked really, really hard. So if it took me 3 times the amount of time to solve a problem or a homework,
Mm.
so be it. And then through that, I took a lot of AP classes, and then my counselor was like, "Hey, there's this new opportunity that came out for where you can actually do your second 2 years of high school, so your junior and senior year, at a local community college. So you can graduate high school both with a high school diploma and a college associate degree." And so by doing that, when I actually got accepted to the University of Washington, I was admitted into my third year directly, and that's
Nice.
how I saved 2 years.
Nice, nice. That's a really great shortcut, and I have a feeling there are maybe some parents and even students out there that don't know that that exists, or that it can be such a great accelerator in a different way to get you, up and running quickly. I did something similar. I took some AP classes just to get some college credits. So I also went into my first year of school already, like,
Mhm,
halfway done, and that was
mhm.
amazing. And I think it's a great way if you are not looking to have the kind of dorm room college experience, which, as a daughter of an immigrant, was the same. It was go, 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 go out into the world, put your stamp on it. And I think we grow up a little faster because we have that little fire under us in a way that, we don't know any different, right? We're kids.
Yeah.
Do you think is that, as if you ever become a parent in the future, what kind of parent are you going to be? Are you going to be a parent who is like, okay, go, like, enjoy your childhood, or are you going to be like, take those AP classes, go into entrepreneurship? Like, where do you think you stand on that?
I think in first of all, I really agree with what you said. But I think it's a fine balance. You don't want to be too pigeonholed in anything. It's even though I did study a lot, I would say I taught, like, again, this is not because of me. I saw other people doing it and it inspired me, but I learned to be very
Mm.
well rounded. So I participated in a lot of clubs, I in volunteering, I played sports, I did a lot of things, but it wasn't because I was smart enough to realize that. It was more I realized that these are the things that you need to become a well-rounded person, which makes you, a versatile person, obviously, usually more successful. And I'd want my kids to also at least have tried many things, just so that they know what's out there in the world. And then if they find themselves attaching to something more than another, they can focus. So let's say, it ends up being one of my kids really good at soccer. I'm not going to be like, no, focus on school first and then soccer. If I realize that they could do something potentially in soccer, we're going to prioritize that. But that doesn't mean we're going to neglect the other things in life, right? So I think there, you know, even as an entrepreneur and as a CEO, what I advise all my other, colleagues, or just even future entrepreneurs or CEOs, is that as a CEO, you don't necessarily have to be very good at everything. You just have to know good amount about about things, because then you know enough to make a decision. And same thing with life, same thing with growing up through school. Just participate, do a bunch of things, and then once you know where you want to focus your attention, go and do it.
I love that. I love that. I'll tell you something that I hear you saying, and it's something that totally resonates with me as well, because I was a student that also was in all the things. I was like the junior class president, and I played all the sports and did all the things. And I feel like the social activities, and more than anything, the community and learning to be like on a team, and also part of leadership of a team,
Mhm.
learning to be
Mhm.
someone that's encouraging on a team. Like, all of
Mhm.
those things are things that end up helping us in life. They end up really helping us in business. They help us in our communities of just being, that friendly neighbor, or being, the the parent that maybe all the other kids can show up at your house and talk to in a way that they maybe are not as comfortable talking to most adults. So I also, for any of our young folks listening today, want to see like what is a piece of advice that you would give this generation. Because my friend, we were on a hike the other day, and she gave me this statistic. She said that most people that are incarcerated are getting more like daylight outdoor time than our average school age children today, which is 2 hours a day. That means most of the kids, if they're getting any kind of outdoor, it might be like if they happen to eat their lunch outside, or
Yeah.
there's some, PE activity at school, but then they come home and apparently they're never coming out of the house.
Mhm.
So, what advice would you have for that generation who maybe doesn't know about playing outside, or the kids that maybe haven't explored sports or clubs? Like, what would you say to that experience and how it shaped you? Because I think like that piece for people to hear is really important, and for parents to hear. If you're, passively kind of letting your kids just kind of come home and just play video games all day, like what's the balance? Like, what's the advice there?
Yeah, and you're right, in terms of that. I think also, like you said, like somebody could be very smart, but if they're lacking the social skills that you develop through sports, the leadership and stuff, it will actually bring them down in life. Uh, for me, when I was younger, I think I had to first see the value of why I should spend more time, for example, outdoors, why I should participate before I started doing it. And a lot of times when you're younger, this is where parenting comes in. Parents should somehow find a way to resonate with you, or even show you the value of why you should, go play sports, or, even if you're not going to be the best, why you should still do it, and the benefits, and maybe apply it to your current life. Because when you're young, everything is essentially encapsulated around your friends, what you're seeing on social media and things around you, and it may not be easy or trivial for you to understand that, oh, once I'm 18, 19, 20 and beyond, it's going to really matter to have those things that would develop at a younger age. So depending on how young the children are, right, parenting and encouraging them, maybe get grouping up, if they like to be with their friends, convincing a bunch of their friends to go and do it out together, right? But I do agree with you, especially now with social media, and we're glued to our screens and our phones, and there's a lot of negative things that will come out from that, even though there are a lot of positives. But until the kids see the value themselves, I think encouraging them, fostering that, maybe getting them to be a part of different things that could showcase why you should do that, is going to be how you can change that behavior.
Amazing. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we will be back with Amin, and I have more questions for him.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
We are back with my special guest, Amin Shaykho. And Amin, you were in Forbes 30 under 30, and you were 23 at the time. Is that correct?
Hmm.
I love that. And okay, fun fact for everyone, I actually was invited to Forbes 40 under 40. However, I had to tell the guy, I'm sad and happy at the same time, because you clearly don't know that I'm not under 40. Well, it happened. It happens. It was
I'm even shocked
bittersweet.
myself.
Bittersweet. Yeah, I was like, oh, well, okay. Someone didn't do their homework, but thank you. I saw a USA Today article, and it was about family traditions. and it has something to do with you and your family creating your own Thanksgiving traditions. Talk to me about some traditions and talk to me about what that story is for our listeners today, and walk us through that, because I'm a big fan of traditions. I just had a birthday, and I have quite the family group here, and we have a rule, and it's that when it's someone's birthday, you hand make them a card. So you
Hmm.
have to actually draw and hand make them a card. And so I have a weenie dog, and so one of the gals here on property made me this card, and I have so many cute cards for my birthday, and I'll post those to Instagram for you guys in my stories later. But I really love this tradition because it's really conscious, and it's really it's everyone making their best effort to come to the
Hmm.
table, and then there's always a really beautiful note inside that speaks to the birthday person. So talk to me about traditions that you either have from your own family or ones that you created, because I love to hear about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, of course. But also in terms of your tradition, I feel like I get kicked out of it because I'm the worst drawer. Nobody's gonna like my art.
Oh, we've had some people who don't draw well, and then they go to YouTube and watch videos of like how to make a pop-up card. So we've
Yeah.
learned that there are people in our group that are craftier than we thought. So it's
Yeah.
amazing what people come up with.
Yeah, no, of course. But yeah, no, I think the real value that I wanted to showcase that USA Today article is that, especially as an immigrant, but more ultimately as just different people in different families, it's actually something rewarding, and I encourage anybody to add their own twist to anything that showcases who they are. And in this case, it was Thanksgiving, and I would say there's probably like a textbook definition or visual of Thanksgiving that you see. But for me, I wanted to showcase that me as an Arab American, we have our unique sets of foods, our jokes, our, just jokes or games, traditions. In this case, like I mentioned, a competition where the Arab moms compete on who can make the best dessert, for example, a knafa, which is one of our staple desserts, and how we integrated that with what Thanksgiving is today, and how it basically was our way of uniting and the benefits that came out of that, and I think it also stemmed from just when you're again, I'm going to tie it back to being an immigrant. For whoever is listening to this, if you're an immigrant, you probably can relate. A lot of times you get put in scenarios, let's say school, where you feel a bit different, where everybody's doing something in their own way, and just because your family does it in their way, which doesn't mean it's wrong, it maybe makes you feel embarrassed to show it, or discouraged, or
Mm,
like you're not part of it. And what I would show here is, as I grew up, I noticed that being different is actually one of my biggest strengths, in that you should actually embrace it instead of just trying to act or be like everybody else, because there's value. And that's the whole point why America is such a great country to be in, because there's people from all over the world together creating things that wouldn't be possible from one perspective. And I guess that was kind of like the overall theme, and obviously we tied it in with the holiday.
yeah. Oh, I love that so much. I would love to be part of any dessert competition as the person eating the desserts, because
Oh
that's
yeah,
my
same
favorite
here.
part.
Yeah.
I like that. I might have to integrate that into our Thanksgiving in some way, shape, or form of like, ooh,
Mhm.
could we make a contest out of desserts? Does that mean everyone will bring more dessert?
Yeah, exactly.
My motto is just eat the cake, and cake should always be first.
Yeah, I actually sometimes eat dessert before the meal.
Yes, absolutely. Technically, one of my health friends told me it's better for you, because then you allow your body isn't so flooded with sugar, because now you're going to get your protein and the rest of the stuff from your
Yeah.
actual meal. And I was like, oh, that's a great. If I ruled the world, dessert would be first. That's how I would do it.
So everything my parents have been telling me as a kid is a lie.
Yes, touche, touche.
Eat
Eat
your
everything on
vegetables
your
first.
plate. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I love it. Yeah. And I think, celebrating diversity is so important. I'm Asian American. So I feel like that I even have a different lens of like, yes, I have the immigrant lens, but I also have this I'm very American lens. It's so interesting to me to see, like, even throughout my friends and relationships, one of my girlfriends that I grew up with since junior high, she
Mhm.
used to look at me and she'd go, Mary, she goes, you're like a Asian body, but there's like a white lady in there. And then I have my other friends who are like, wow, you're being so Asian right now. And so I laugh because we can joke about those things, and they're not being derogatory. They're just making jokes because I'm showing up eating, dried squid on a stick, and they're like, who does that? And there's just weird foods that I've eaten and tried that were really normal in our house that might not be normal in the average American home. I remember sitting down to a dinner. I was dating a guy, and it was my first like dinner at the parents' house. And I looked at my plate and I thought, what is wrong with this plate? And it's because there was like chicken and there was a vegetable and then there was just nothing. And I was like,
Mhm.
my plate is missing something. And afterwards, I realized my plate is missing rice because we have rice almost every meal. And so
Yeah.
that's what's missing in this
Mhm.
quadrant over here that I
Mhm.
just so like could feel it in my body of like, what is missing on this plate? And that
Mhm.
just goes to show you that if that's a regular staple in your diet, then and it could be anything for anyone. But in our household, it just happened to be rice. And so that is, I think, partly cultural and then just partly how we did things. And I think that all those things are to be celebrated. And it's so much fun when we can interact with each other and learn just a different lens of things. I often hear people that, might, I think in American culture, we can look at cultures that might do something like an arranged marriage. And we're like, oh my God, how? Blah, blah. But statistically, those marriages actually last longer. So part of me goes, huh, maybe someone else is doing this in a much better way. And really what it is, so that you all know, it's because the parents are usually helping with that process and they're trying to find the most aligned match for their child. So when we think about American culture and dating, what's beautiful and when things tend to work out the best is when we find a partner who is aligned with our values. And so it really is the same thing. We just are approaching it in a different way. And it's just nice to be able to open our eyes. And also doesn't mean we have to do it, but we can acknowledge and appreciate how other people celebrate and how other people can bring in their own cultural and familial differences. And that's the piece that I think is the most connected. It's when we can connect ourselves instead of separating ourselves from the other person.
Mhm.
Uh, Amin, tell me what is something. Let's dive into a little more about you. What is something your friends would tell me about you that I wouldn't necessarily read on the internet?
Well, I think my really close friends see me just as this like a jokester. I joke around. I'm usually never serious, and it's very different than the personality you see with me when I'm like building my companies and so forth. And so that's one thing for sure.
Okay. Okay. So a little bit of a jokester.
Yeah.
Would you say more joking, like making jokes, or more like prankster, like shenanigans?
Well, to be honest, a bit of both. Like one time, like we got, I don't know if I forgot what it's called, but it's like a spray that smells really bad. And me and my other coworker, we sprayed the office of one of our other coworker, and
Oh
and we
no.
acted like we weren't part of it, and he was just freaking out for 2 hours. But that joking around, going and hanging out, just that kind of vibe.
I love it. I love it. That's so great. That's so great. Did you, when you think back on your relationships, are there friendships that you've been able to carry since you were younger? Or would you say that more of your, like if you gave yourself a rating for relationships on a scale of 1 to 10, with one being like, I really have to work on relationships. I'm not always as great at them. And 10 being like, I rock relationships. Like I've got that in the bag. Like, where would you say you fall on that scale?
To answer your first question, is like I most of my close friends are still my friends from elementary school and like middle school, and but the relationship, I would say, I feel like that's an area where I'd want to improve on. Maybe let's say like maybe I'm at like a 6, 7, but it's because usually like I get so busy, I forget to follow up with people, and I think that's like actually something I put in for 2024 to improve on.
I love that. What is something, speaking of 2024, what are some other things that you've put on your goals list, or what are some things you aspire to for this year?
Depth. I think there's a lot of things going on right now, but something that I really want to do is continue building on social media. I just started in mid to late 2023, and I think there's huge potential there to showcase my personality. Before that, I was just behind the scenes building a company, and people knew of my work, but not necessarily who I am. And I think there's something cool I could do there. And within that, there's just a bunch of projects I'm working on that I want to continue growing and seeing how those go, especially with the new learnings and experiences that I've developed over the last few years.
Amazing. Amazing. And so what do you want to be when you grow up?
The same answer I would give you back in high school. I still don't know what exactly I'll be doing, let's say in 10 years from now or 20 years from now. But what I know for sure is it has to be something that is making an impact on this world, whether it could be through technology, business, or social
Mhm.
media. Not sure, but something. That's kind of like the thing I've been living by since I was in high school. I told myself, I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's going to be something involving leading a company with technology to change the world. And whatever I will be, whatever project I'm on, is going to be something to do with that.
I love that. I love that. What is something on your bucket list that you'd really like to go experience or see or do?
Um, be on a TV show probably. I feel like that's like extremely
Oh,
because I've jumped from the corporate world, the tech world to the startup world to social media, given some talks here and there. So I like challenging myself by throwing myself in an industry I've never been in. And I feel like that could be something interesting. And then besides that, I really want to travel, hit a few different places around the world.
very cool. Very cool. What's a location that feels really good for you?
There's a lot of places in Europe. I want to go to Italy just because I've never been there, and I really like Italian food. So I want to just try authentic everything.
Okay. So my first trip to Italy, I am literally having my very first lunch and I'm so excited because I walk into this cafe
Mhm,
and there is a beautiful lasagna and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's it. What says Italy more than lasagna?" And I walk over, I order the lasagna and I see the lady cut a piece and I'm just my mouth is already salivating because I can see the cheese and the sauce and it's just beautifully stacked and I know that someone has like hand homemade this, not
mhm.
it's not bought from some refrigerated thing where they shipped it in. And I watched the lady turn around and put it in a microwave.
Oh no. Well, maybe
And my partner,
I'm gonna
I
change my flight from Italy somewhere else now.
I'm telling you, I was like, what just happened? And I just remember thinking, wow, this is my very first Italian meal experience, and this is what I got. Now, the lasagna actually ended up being pretty good. If anyone that knows me knows I don't actually microwave my food. So it was just a weird thing to be like, oh. And then someone else, another friend of mine who actually has worked in the restaurant industry told me that there are actually many restaurants that have microwaves in their kitchen. And that is sometimes how your food is heated up. And I was like, those aren't any restaurants I want to be going to. So I need to
Yeah,
like get the list and know.
yeah.
Yeah. So I would
No
say that
worries.
was like it was an authentic Italian experience, just not what I was expecting.
It's fun. I'll do a kitchen inspection the next time I go to a restaurant. As
There
long
you
as there's
go.
no microwave, I'll be eating there.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, Italy is amazing. I've been there many times, and when you get ready to go, let me know. I can make some great recommendations for you. It's a really
Oh,
beautiful
100%.
country and so much to see. Yeah, it's so interesting because I think when I look back on my life, and I have spent a good amount of it traveling to really exotic and amazing places, and I believe that that's part of like seeing other cultures, sharing your culture, being able to
Mhm,
immerse yourself in something that's different, just the air
mhm,
is different. And
mhm.
there's beauty in that. There's beauty when we can sit and be with just the scent of a different place and the experience of other people. And I love that. I think that's the grand part of life. We are going to take another quick commercial break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask Amin, what mantras does he live by?
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Amin, let's talk about mantras. Let's talk about whether it's a quote or it's just a repeat that you say to yourself or one that lives in your brain. What is a mantra you live by?
Just get started.
Just get started. Oh, that's delicious. I hope you all heard that. Just get started. How many times have we sat on an idea? How many times have we juggled one around in our mind? Have we done the mental gymnastics around what we think we want to do, what we think we might do, what we know we want to do in the future, but we don't know how? That was a beautiful mantra. Just get started. I
Yeah, it
love that.
applies to everything in life.
It does.
Everything.
It does. Someone asked me about motivation, and I was reading also what experts have to say about it. And as it turns out, we don't really get motivated to do anything. We do the thing, and that's what motivates us. It's in the doing that the motivation happens. It's just starting, as you said. I don't want to go to the gym, but if I'll get myself up and go to the gym and start, it's amazing how an hour later, I'm like, oh, I'm through that workout and like I feel better. It's good for my body. It's good for my bones. And you're so right. It's true in every area of life. Are you more of a like movie watcher? Are you more of a book reader? Are you more of a podcast listener? Like how do you get your education information? How do you learn new things?
I would say, I guess that's changed over time, but right now I feel like podcasts because I do it when I'm in the gym. So I actually, instead of listening to music now, I like listen to podcasts in the car, and I will listen to a variety of things, whether it's technology, whether it's a little bit of politics, whether it's something related to sports or living your life, everything. Just because I feel like the more I learn about different things in life, the more versatile I can become, and then hearing the different perspectives. So I also try to hear across different podcasts, not just one perspective.
Got it. So throw me your favorite one.
There's many, but I think Lex Friedman, for example, is a podcast I like to watch a lot, just because he tries to not be biased and hear both sides, and
Oh,
I love when the host allows the viewer to make the decision based on what's presented versus them pushing something on.
pushing an
Um,
agenda. Oh, I
Yeah,
love that.
exactly. And I think like he does a good job. And he puts in people from all sides, political sides, religious sides, even in business, like somebody like pro big tech, somebody against big tech.
That's great. Yeah, I think it's so important that we all, as individuals, learn how to make our own decision versus being told what decision we should go with. And the problem with our old education paradigm is it tells us what to think about. It tells us the version of history that's taught through a school book that's been edited, instead of saying, look, these are the things that happened, and some of them might have been atrocious and gross. And for future generations, you need to know that so you don't do it for the next generation. And that part of being neutral, I think, is super important because we are all humaning, y'all. We're going through this experience in life, and we are sharing a lot of the same ups and downs in ways that we don't even realize. Adversity for one person is just a different adversity for another. It's still adversity. It still can be the biggest thing going on in their life right now. And when we have the ability to make our own choices, then we can undo some of the beliefs that were handed to us or told to us that we took on as our own beliefs, but that may not serve us anymore, or the ones that we go, I'm not completely aligned with that. And I'm going to encourage all of you that if you have that longing inside, if you have that still small voice that says, hey, like this doesn't quite feel right for me, then it's a good voice to listen to because all of the answers that you actually need are right inside of you. And we can always, of course, go consult advisors and we can as
Mhm.
consult mentors and friends and family. And at the end of the day, can you take all of that input, figure out how to sort it, and then come with your own instinctual decision around what to do. And that's where you'll hear people talk about their gut instinct. And with that, Amin, I want to know, like, what were some of the gut instinct moments that you've had in your life? You know, whether it was business or personal, like, what are some of the, if you can look back, if you connect the dots a little bit, what are some of those things that you can say, hey, I was told X, but my gut said this, and you know whether you did or didn't go with your gut, like tell us a story about that.
I feel like my gut plays a huge factor in my life, and I sometimes too much. Sometimes I'll be with my friends and they'll be like, "How did you know that?" And sometimes I'll just give you these random feelings and predictions. It's kind of scary, but one of them is, for example, like even entering social media. But the thing is, I knew that there's going to be a game plan with social media since a very young age, since I was a kid. And I always was like, people see me, I'm big on social media now, but imagine I've been trying to make some minor steps since I was in middle school, since like back when Vine was a big thing. And a lot of people may not even know what that is anymore. But it was like essentially TikTok, another version of that, which, shut down, but it was the biggest thing when it came out. And especially the way we tied it into building an education company. Another thing that a lot of people were like, "Oh no, you shouldn't do it. Education should be professional. It should be how it's taught today." But what a lot of people lacked understanding that, if education at the end of the day is targeting, younger students, we focus more on high school, middle school, and college. But Gen Z, if you're targeting them, they have a specific way of viewing information that they're, what they like is very different than what, parents like. And so going to social media was very clear to me that it's going to be the way to attract them. And a lot of people were, I guess, but I chased my gut feeling that I was like, we're going to do it whether or not people believe in us. And a lot of early investors didn't believe in it. And then once we
Mm,
did it, they're like, oh, of course it makes sense now, but that's an example of a gut feeling, that I would say maybe me and a few other people around me believed in it, but a lot of people didn't. Because you need to understand, like we tapped into TikTok in 2019, 2020 before it even became a thing. There was a huge stigma around it. Oh, this is only a kids app. This is where kids are dancing. Somebody as
mm,
old as you shouldn't be on the app. All that was the talk. Today everybody's on it, but they don't remember that just 3-4 years ago, a lot of the people who said they
right.
won't be using TikTok are on TikTok now. You know?
Totally. Totally. Yeah, what
Yeah.
happened to Clubhouse? Do you like, is that's still a thing, right?
Well, it's a thing. Is the hype died down drastically? Obviously, there was a lot of hype because big investors came in, overvalued it, tossed in money, and it made sense during the pandemic. But once that kind of ended, I feel like it dwindled down with it. And also, a lot of
Yeah.
apps like Twitter integrated the features that they had, and they already had a big user base, so people just gravitated towards that. Unfortunately for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think people know too, LinkedIn actually has a platform. You can actually do like live calls and
Hmm.
stream and all that good stuff on there too. So for you professionals that are looking for a place for that, if you're still not willing to dance on TikTok, then you do have other places you can go. And I did notice that you have obviously, great statistics around the TikTok views. I've seen some of the videos as well as, Instagram. Do you get those care packages from TikTok where they send you like their stuff? Because I have friends that are influencers that get like random stuff from TikTok. I just think it's so funny.
I didn't get from TikTok, but I've gotten it from like other social medias. But yeah, like a
Nice.
little like pencil with their logo on it and something like that.
Oh, that's
Like
funny.
I
That's
think
funny.
like somewhere over there, I have like YouTube hoodies.
Oh, nice,
Yeah,
nice. Good old YouTube.
yeah.
I laugh because technology really does bring people together. My mom is 80 years old and she loves YouTube. YouTube is like her new playground of TV because she can actually stream in Thailand YouTube. So she sees Thai news, Thai information, Thai shows, Thai songs. She gets it all. And it makes her feel like she's still plugged into like her old country?
It's powerful. It's more people now are watching like YouTube, social media than even TV.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's even our phones, right? Because it's so easy to just stream. I feel like normal television is almost it's dying out in some certain ways. I feel like there's a generation that still watches it, but I think the newer generation definitely is looking for faster, smaller, quicker, items that they can watch on these platforms like Instagram and TikTok. And I've never been TikTok famous, but I do enjoy a good scroll through TikTok for sure.
It's addicting. I agree with you, and it's funny. I actually haven't like watched traditional TV in so long.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think and even Netflix, like, that's the new TV, you just binge watch a whole season of something, like, over a weekend, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, I love to be able to look back and, like I said, connect the dots for people because I think that's how we really learn and how we see our life. We don't get to really we can future project what we want to, but it's only looking back that we really see how the story unfolds for us. So, what would you say was the worst job you ever had?
Like, if you're talking like an actual real job, I haven't done many jobs. Like I've like, I feel like I've done 4, I guess 5. And I feel like it's hard for me to say worst because I don't consider any of them the worst. I don't know if you want me to elaborate more. Like my first job ever was just being a tutor. My second job was working at an internship. Third one was working at Boeing, then Apple, then my company. So
Oh.
it's hard for me to just eliminate any of them.
Ooh, ooh, so you won't give any of them the prize of being the worst, huh?
I don't know. I don't feel like I can like throw any of them under the bus.
Hilarious. Okay, what about a worse boss? You don't have to name names.
Oh my god. Okay. Listen, people are gonna call me like a spoiled for this, or like, oh yeah. The thing is, all my managers were all really, really good to me. And like I'm still in touch with my manager from my internship at Boeing, which was back in 2017. And
Wow.
so again, there's nobody to throw under the bus here too. I
Oh,
guess I got
wow.
really lucky on that
That's
sense.
impressive. That is so impressive, so impressive. I was gonna say the worst work I think I ever did is I sold flooring, and I sold it for, like, 3 months, and I was killing it because I'd come in and they'd be like, "Oh, she's here to design our living room." I'm like, I am." However, it was always amazing to me that I could walk into some people's homes and they would just have crap everywhere. I remember I walked and they knew I was coming. Like, a stranger is coming to your house and I'm going to need to measure. And I thought, old school, what if I had had to like actually measure with a measuring tape? But I had one of those
Uh-huh.
like laser,
Yeah, yeah.
one. And but man, there's houses I'd walk into, it literally looks like someone took out trash and just threw it around, and I would be like, "Oh, you think that people would be, like, more conscious," but that wasn't always the case, so that
It's
was probably my worst one. No, not any bosses that were too terrible there, but
No, I
it's
don't know why that just made me randomly think like my co-founder, like I always bring up his job, he was doing an accounting job and they made him like literally make lubricant for
oh,
for like treadmills. And so
no.
I feel like if you had asked him the question, he would have said that job because he thought he was doing an accounting internship over the summer, but every day he'd like come back home exhausted because he would be like stirring the lubricant up for hours with a huge
Oh, that's a
it's
gross job.
what they use in treadmills to make on like on the motor, right? So
Yeah.
I would think he would win that award, but unfortunately for me, I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah. You got lucky, you got lucky. Alright,
Yeah.
with that, we're gonna take a quick commercial break, we'll be right back.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and tune in radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com.
Amin, let's talk through what is the very best business advice you ever got? Is there one piece that just really stands out for you?
There's a lot, and they're all significant at different moments of my journey. But I would
Mm,
say it, like an overall best advice is to I said this earlier, but I'm just gonna say it again because I think it's very important, is not to get too married to like an idea or a product. And the reason I said that, and now I'm gonna focus on something I didn't mention earlier, is because it forces you to be very data driven, quantitative or
mm,
qualitative, where either you have to go speak to customers, understand what they want, or even like build the most extreme data collection mechanism or analytics where you can understand how people are using your app, every single part of the app. Like for our app, the journey of finding the app all the way down to paying a tutor, every single interaction they did on the app, where things are going wrong, extrapolating that out, and actually finding out from that whether or not a feature is good or bad, versus coming in because you love it so much. And that is, I would say, that specific feedback is why we're successful today, because it allowed us to be so data driven. We built, I would say, the best interactions for tutoring out there in the industry, right? How students interact is one of the best on our app, for example, because of we've done
mm.
like 10 iterations of our chat. And so that I would say is like my favorite advice that anybody building a company could resonate with and learn from.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. What is the number one type of tutor or area or category that people are on Kadama for? What do you think is like I imagine you have the statistic around what people are like, what are people searching for? What are they looking for?
Yeah, no, the biggest things are within English, math, and science, just
Okay.
because those are the classes that you have to take almost throughout all school and even through college. And within that, like algebra, calculus, for example, and math, English, a lot of times it's like essays and etc.
Beautiful. That's really beautiful. I love that. That is a resource that I think can be so appreciated now because there was a time where you had to go physically go look for a tutor or show
Hmm.
up at school and hope that a teacher would stay after
Hmm.
and do some extra work with you. And
Hmm.
I think it's beautiful that you've just made that really accessible. And by being virtual, obviously it's accessible across the country, so you can go get the best of the best, even if they live 3 states away. So
Correct.
amazing, and congratulations to you on your ideas and that success. It really says a lot, and I'm excited about watching you in the future and seeing what you tee up. Maybe we'll see you on a TV cameo, or maybe something different. But either way, it'll be fun to follow. So I'm glad we're in the circle now.
Yeah, no, of course. Thank you so much for those kind words.
Of course, of course. Talk to me about the physical demands and the mental demands that you feel like you've gone through as an entrepreneur. You started all your success pretty young, and so knowing that you've been like a sponge, probably in the trenches long before even your brain was fully developed. You've had time. You've had time to kind of look back. Like, what are some ways that you feel like you've been able to really work through some of the mental game as well as the physical game?
It's really, really tough. But I've learned I kind of got thrown in exactly as you said with little preparation. I just got tossed in with no breaks because like at any moment in time I was doing multiple things in parallel. Like when I was working at Apple, I was working on my company, school company. Like there was so many things going on at all times. And it wasn't like it was more of like in the moment I had to adjust in order to essentially survive. So for example, when you're dealing with a lot of stuff, you have to learn how do you manage things and prioritize them. So you can't, like when I was a student working on my company, I couldn't be like, okay, I'm going to do all my school stuff first and then my company. That logic will get me nowhere because there's always forever homework to finish, right? So how do I like align important assignments or exams and stuff within things I had to do for my company? And so that taught me how to manage my time and then obviously prioritize things in my life, which is very important because if you overwhelm yourself, whether it's giving attention to way too many people or trying to do so many things, you're gonna get lost and all that, right? And so it
Mhm.
taught me, for example, well, I have to manage who are my real friends, who are my close friends, who should I, dedicate time to, and obviously, physical is a very big component to this. And for me, I there, especially when I was, I think between like let's say like 20 to 23, like when we were just like starting to see success with the company, I was able to kind of go tunnel vision. Even I would skip the gym a lot too, but I was somehow able to do it. But eventually, after let's say like 2 years of doing that, I hit a sudden like suddenly I like almost like I just lost focus, just because I feel like all the stress had built up. And then I had to essentially teach myself, like, no matter what is happening, no matter how many important things I have in one day, I have to start the day by going to the gym, um you know actually taking physical health seriously, like taking an ice plunge in the morning, going to sauna in the evening, right? Because even though I may not feel like I need them in the moment, it's the only way to prevent myself from crashing and burning down the line. And slowly tying in these different habits together. And obviously, as that's going, you become way more efficient and basically wiser, or more experienced in what you're doing, so that you end up wasting less time, things work out better. But it was a process learning it. And definitely, right now I have to go to the gym every single day, even sometimes multiple times in a day. And sometimes I do workouts just to clear my mind, so I'll walk on the treadmill just so I can clear up my mind, right? And so yeah, it's essential. And now, as I get older, I realize that physical health is very important, and I look up things that I could do just to give myself that boost. So I'm always feeling 110%, not just 100.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the physical part is ties into the mental. And that's what I hear you saying is that, like, for you, being able to clear your space means going to the gym. That means getting your head clear because you're getting all the physical energy out, but it's also taking all this mental energy and also helping it all's kind of coming out your pores at the same time. And I love this because I think that there are also people who are watching and who go, I don't always resonate with that. And then there's others that really resonate with the exercise piece. So for others of you that may not resonate with the physical part of it, there's other tactics. For example, you can also write everything that's on your mind and dump it all out on a piece of paper. I know that for me, taking a walk in nature is always going to be the way. And secondary to that is going to be sitting down with my journal and actually just saying, can I just brain dump everything that's going through my mind? Because that allows us to clear out the chatter. It allows us to clear out whatever the repeating voices in our head, and
Mhm.
let us have that clear mind and clear space so that real clarity can come in, and now we can get strategic, or we can allow our intuition to sit in and really give us the gift of the information that we need to make the decisions that we need to make. And but physical is such a good one. And I hear you talking about cold plunges, ice baths, and sauna. Those are a part of my weekly regimen. So I would love to explore what other little hacks that you do for health and wellness, because I think those are really, really important. As I'm a cancer survivor, so for me it's wanting my health to be really optimal so that I never have to, ideally I will reduce any recurrences and things like that. And just about being healthy. I want to be able to hike when I'm, 90 years old. So those aspects of it are so important. And I think that burnout is a real thing. And was burnout something that you ever experienced in business?
Yeah, I would say I faced it a few times, but I feel like my recovery was pretty good, just because I feel like once I burnt out the first time, I learned what to do in those scenarios and how to, minimize it, such that
Yeah.
when I face it moving on, I knew, okay, this is what I have to do. Just like take a few days, don't push myself, just like double, you know, things that make me, things that like, help me relax, like, maybe going swimming or going out to do a hike or a walk, right? And then maybe for me also even like changing my environment, like just go somewhere that I don't usually go to, just to be in a different perspective, and then those kind of things like help me recover. But yeah, burnout a lot. And it's just because, and the thing is with me, it gets delayed because I'm So a lot of times I find myself like, let's say a week of just like no time to even breathe. So I feel like my body doesn't even have time to burn out. But then once that ends, it just suddenly collapses. And that's why I say I don't usually get sick that much, but when I do, I get really, really sick because I feel like my body just has nothing anymore, right? And then I have to like basically restart.
Yes, absolutely. The body, it wants that rest, and it sounds like yours just catches up with you to let you know. And sometimes that's how it goes. Sometimes the body demands rest from us when we don't give it. But it also sounds like you have a lot of great ways that you find a way to filter your energy and just send it to the places that it needs to go. You take that energy and you're able to repurpose it for greater things. All right. Well, with that, everyone, thank you, Amin, for being on the show today. We are going to head over to an extended version on YouTube. So join us there for more on Amin. And until then, join us back here next week for another interesting and inspiring guest interview. And remember that you can always catch the Mad Love Your Life show here every Wednesday at 4 Eastern. And head over to maryd.com to grab the link to the YouTube channel. That's where the extended version will be. And we'll post that each week. You can also grab more great content and find more episodes there. And until next time, may abundance always walk beside you. May joy always go before you, and may love always guide you on your path. Thank you for tuning in to today's show. We air live every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Bold Brave TV. We hope to see you back next week. For more ways to connect with my guests, content, programs, and retreats, just head over to www.maryd.com and subscribe. That's MARYDEE.com.